Well, hello and welcome. I'm Sue Britz,
And I'm Tina Lookbakk. Welcome to Retired.
the podcast where we talk about what life is like when we put on new tread, new wheels that move us to our next adventure. We're going to actually put our car in reverse and think about what teaching has taught us. Being both retired from teaching, we carry these lessons into our present and our future. So, Tina, I wanted to start off by thinking about teaching, what it taught us personally early on in our career and then later. So kind of divide it into those two parts. And hopefully this maybe will be relevant to young people who are teaching, and they can kind of hear some of the things that we went through and apply it where appropriate for them in their lives. Is that like a plan? Hello?
Yes, I think I think where I'm struggling this morning is I keep going back to the struggles with the system. So it's what the system has taught me. In in it, yeah, in a lot of it it's about the system. And so I don't know if that's where we really want to go. And as far as what the kids have taught me, it's not as much. It's not, it has in the deepest ways, less things in deeper ways, and then more in superficial ways, lots of ways, the system. So I'm just torn to which direction I want to even go
Oh,
without
interesting.
spiraling into a black abyss.
What has teaching taught us personally? And it could be anything that we feel is relevant. So I know that early on, one of the things that I knew that I figured out was that being a teacher made me a better parent, and being a parent made me a better teacher. I felt that. I really embraced that, and I think it's true. I'm not advocating for people to go be a parent if they don't want to be. I'm just saying that for me, it really helped me to see things differently.
So for that piece, I would like to agree with you. And I think one of the things it taught me was I would have been happy with a girl or a boy because I loved my girl students as much as my boy students. So it was great going into parenting knowing it didn't matter which gender I had. That was not going to be a problem because I realized I loved all students, no matter the gender.
That's interesting because, as teachers, we do sometimes we need to connect with a kid in a different way. And in generalities, boys and girls are different, and there you have to employ different strategies in dealing with those kids. So that's a cool idea, and I love that too. As being a teacher, when those kids walk in the door, we try to balance a class for boys and girls, and there's a reason for it. So yeah, that was good. Yeah.
Shockingly insightful.
Well, and then as a parent, you're like, okay, I really, really want this gender or that one. You don't know what you're going to get, and there, of course, are the in between genders too. So you being a teacher has taught us that it's a joy to have all those kids. So
Yes.
yeah, for me, I think it made me a better teacher because I was observing different kinds of behaviors in kids and learning and trying to understand the world from their points of views and how they approach things, what kind of learners they were, and so forth. And it gave me knowledge to help me be a better parent in that way, so that when my child developed as a kid, I could start seeing some of the similar patterns that I saw in certain kids, and then what strategies worked for them, what may have helped them. You're never going to be perfect with anything, but it made me really see that it's not, because I think we operate from our perspective, how it was for us growing up, and we thinking that's how it will be for our kid. But being a teacher makes you really understand that there's all kinds of kids, and even within different families, I mean, even within same families, kids are incredibly different. And so you step outside yourself, you see them from the outside. You don't have this emotional buy-in like you do with your own family, and you can see things and patterns and trends and strategies that work better. So I don't know.
I think it gave me more empathy,
Mhm.
and I what comes to my mind right now is I always did not want to connect older siblings to the younger siblings.
Mhm.
Like, I really didn't want to even know. Like, my brain, I think, consciously tried to weed out if I saw a last name and it just wouldn't connect, because I didn't want to go in with a preconceived thought as to who that
Mhm.
child would be.
Yeah.
As like you were saying, every child is different, and even within families it can be extremely different. And I wanted to love that kid, not because it was the sibling of the one I had before, but because that was the student that I was given this year to love or
Right.
to educate. So I think that it taught me how much I wanted to be open-minded to every kid that came through the door. And it was very different. The last principal I had was very much get to know who these kids are before they even enter your classroom, and read all of the other teachers' comments. And I resisted. I did not like that because, again, for me, I wanted the kids to come in as fresh slates. And if I took with them a particular conflict that a teacher had with the student, I wouldn't be able to open up my mind. I would always be carrying this tainted image. And I realized that I'd say my gift in teaching would be to have an openness for each child and to keep that door open. And I didn't like it tainted by some other person's opinion. And what I came to find out was many of the times that those students that were the worst ended up being my favorites.
Yeah,
Isn't
often
that
kids,
interesting?
well, kids that are more challenging to manage or to reach or whatever, those you because you were working so hard to do that, you do develop that feeling towards them. I think there's a real fine balance between what you just said. I get because
Mm-hmm.
that was my general approach towards kids is just to see who comes walking through that door that day. But there are exceptions to that. There are kids with certain needs that you have to know about before they walk through that door. And I think that increasingly that has become the case. And so, certainly towards the end of our careers, we saw more of, I could see why the principal would say, get to know who these kids are, because um, there are a lot more um, characteristics that,
Issues.
yes, issues and characteristics we need to know about kids. If they had IEPs, then you had to be aware of those before they walked in the door. One of the things I wanted to say about knowing being a better teacher and a better parent also was that um, being a parent, you you understand it intellectually, but until you have that child and you love them so incredibly deeply and you want the best for them and everything, and you understand that you want to provide the best for them without necessarily paving their way their life in front of them. You want them to learn and but learn in a healthy way and all that. It made me much more compassionate towards parents who may have approached me in an aggressive way or in
Mm-hmm.
a making their own preconceptions about what was going on in my classroom, because they just want the best for their kids too. They love them
Mm-hmm.
as intensely as I love my kid. And that gave me a little bit of room for grace. I mean, you also want to have your boundaries, but it gave me room
Right.
for grace and to allow the normal
Good
compassion
point.
that I feel to flow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a little one to add that's funny. It was my first year teaching at our school together, and it was the outdoor education week. And there was one child whose mom was such a delight, involved in everything, but just so warm and fuzzy. And her teenage-ish daughter was just dreading that her mother wanted to be a chaperone at the outdoor adventure week, and was just dreading it and didn't want it, and totally rejecting her mother, wanted nothing to do with her mother there, and yet she was the sweetest, kindest human. And it taught me that, okay, when or if, because at that point I wasn't pregnant, you become that parent, just remember that it's nothing actually personal, that it doesn't mean you're a bad human or a terrible parent. It just means that the kids are getting into this place where they don't want mommy around all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So when that came into my situation, it was the same thing. The first one's like, nope, I want to do this on my own, or it was reverse. I can't even remember now. But one of them wanted me, and the other one's like, please don't, please don't. I got this. Don't come. But I didn't take it personally. So a lot of things
That
I learned,
helps.
like you said,
Yeah.
made me a better parent or aware of what was going to come
Hmm.
and to be able to handle it much more gracefully than if I had not had teaching.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Because you see that in these other kids, and then you can apply it to your own parenting. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. In reflecting upon our earlier years and what that taught us, what teaching taught us, let's move on to when we have retired, where we've left teaching, and now we have a time to think back on
Mm.
it. Um, of course, there are little bits of this that we would think of along the way because we had some long careers here. But in reflecting from the outside, I think this could be helpful to people still currently teaching. What comes to mind for you, or does anything come to mind?
I'd like you to begin.
So, what comes to mind? All right. Well, in my mind, I thought, okay, certainly patience. Learning how to be more patient because I'm a person who likes to rush forward and keep moving
Really?
forward. But to be more patient and planning, also knowing the importance of planning. I've always liked planning, and you can over plan, you can
Oh,
under
yes, you
plan, but
can.
planning is important and knowing when to kind of make
Back
sure
off or pull forward.
make sure you know when it's appropriate to do implement high planning, and then also to pull back and allow for some spontaneous things to happen. Anticipation. I've learned that the importance of anticipation, both as a teacher and as those who are learning, being prepared. I think that, as you go through your teaching career, you are massively prepared because you've got this whole repertoire of skills that are there. And just to trust that and be able to pull them out when you need to, super good. And then good habits, being more aware of sleeping, the importance of sleep, the importance of giving yourself the grace to figure out, when how to adjust, like even getting up and moving, and how to take care of yourself, and how to uh, develop the habits of good eating too, because it's hard when you're teaching elementary school and you're in the classroom all day with the kids. You're often there when there's bad weather. You're indoors with them literally all day. You don't get a chance to eat. You don't get a chance to go to the bathroom. And you need to advocate for yourself and make sure that those habits are in place so that you stay healthy. Important to do. So those are just some of the general things that come to mind, that 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 I think are, well, those are just some of the general things that came to mind.
Well, first, I want to say, you know what? When I think about when did we first meet, I was 27, so you were 33, right? Don't we have a
Okay.
6 year difference?
Yeah.
And I think about, you're right, patience. I've seen growth there with you and with me. I always thought I was the world's most empathic, but no, I think my compassion went deeper, like you said, and you could relate better to parents and give them grace. And I think that that is true for me. It became where I was able to not, again, take things so personally. I
Mm-hmm.
was able to look at where these people could be coming from. And before everything was a personal attack, as opposed to, it's not really about a personal attack
Well,
anymore. It's
sometimes it
about,
is.
well, God, let's
Let's
not.
be
You're
honest
right.
about that.
Okay. Look at how I want to just forget that part.
But
Yeah,
but
that's
even
so true.
but even understanding that personal attack comes from a place of this desperate need to protect their child, to serve their child, to be right, and all the other
Hmm.
stuff that's going on in their lives and their professions and so forth too. I mean,
Yeah.
just knowing that, and then even if it is personal, to not let it try not to let it affect you so deeply. You don't have to take it so personally, even though it is delivered in a very personal manner. You know, that takes a lot of maturity,
Yes.
and I still
So,
need to work on
yeah.
that one because I take it
Well,
personally.
I think we all do. Let's go to The Four Agreements by Don Miguel. Uh, have you read that one? You've read that one.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I totally recommend it. Um, and one of his four principles is exactly that. Don't take things personally. And
It's
it's
hard.
such a great thing to live by. It is hard. But life is an evolution. We just keep evolving.
Well, I think being
Uh
in education and being a teacher, you're not only delivering curriculum because that's what you're there for, but you're delivering so much more. And so knowing that you're learning how you see every day examples of learning, and you know that for yourself, that's what we need to be doing and modeling for our kids. And I've always liked that part of teaching where we are always learning. And if you're not, you're probably not living. And you have to continue to learn and practice the things that will uh, make you proud to have lived an incredible life.
Ooh, that was good too. I think about all the shifts in curriculum, all the this is the best practice this year or decade, and then this is a different one in this year and decade. And so many teachers, I think mostly in upper education, uh, they are much more reluctant to any kind of change. I don't know, it's kind of has nothing to do with it, but has everything to do with it. And I think when you're working younger grades, I'd say that more teachers are more excited about the continuous evolution of how to teach
Mm,
and interested in it. And so when I have dabbled in, I started off in high school and I ended with high school. And I think that most people are so much more regimented and not open to learning new ways of doing things. And I think elementary teachers are much more open to growth,
yeah.
to evolving, to wanting to learn the new and better way, like
Well,
an eagerness for it.
yeah, and you're like you say, you're kind of forced to with all the changes and shifts in curriculum and how to approach things. They always got to stuff one more thing in, and you got to figure out how to deliver that well. That's one of the things that I also in retrospect, I kind of knew along the way, but I'm a big picture person, and
Mm-hmm.
and the importance of the big picture is I love this approach. I thought it was effective for a lot of learning. You because we live from a our own picture from a very introverted kind of perspective. But if we can push ourselves to the big picture, then we're understanding our place in the world. We're a small little dot, and important and significant, but small little dot. And knowing that there's all this knowledge and all this information, and if you can make it connect across curriculum,
Yes.
across genre, and fill in all the little details, not all, fill in many of the details, you get a deeper, broader, more rich,
Richer.
yes, understanding of the big picture, yourself, your
Mm.
family, your community, your country, and beyond. Pulling in all the details, and to me that's beautiful. That's profound. And I like the word profound because you're for finding things out.
Ooh,
Profound.
like that. Ooh, like that. So, another thing that actually surfaced with my new direction with the business and working with people, I had to think about a section. It was like, who am I? What are my qualifications? And why am I doing this? So I actually took a page so that people could understand who I was and what are my qualifications. And I realized that what teaching most taught me, and it applied now. Like, think about this
Mm-hmm.
after retirement at 57, and I thought the thing that I could do when I was most magical and on was create a learning environment that felt warm and cozy and safe and accepting and inclusive, and
Challenging.
that
Yeah.
challenging, but to be able to find the kids who feel least part of something, hunt down their strengths, and use it within the class and give each person this feeling. And I meant it in my soul that they had something to contribute. And when I could tap into the class as a whole and find every way that they could bring a strength and bring it up, and then other kids would start identifying those strengths, then it became this incredible. I felt like I was a captain of a ship, sure, but it was more like I was there to guide them. But I could take each kid and say, take the helm, take the helm, take the helm, because I knew that they could take the helm in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
And every kid got that chance to stand there at the helm.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that is like the gift that I think they taught me, I taught them. And it is to create that kind of a team.
Yeah.
That team feeling. And again, that goes back to why I just fell in love with the year that we had so much magic. And it was because we created the team. Then the kids became a unified team, both of our classes. And I think when you can create teams, that's when the magic can happen. That's when the learning, because on the days that are tough, they will show up like soldiers and say, we are here for you. We will do the work that you are expecting of us. But if you don't take the time to build that foundation of team, it's so much harder to navigate through the rocky seas.
Very much agreed. And I did my own version of the same thing that you're talking about. And I'm so proud of us, and I'm glad we were able to do it, and I'm glad our
Me
kids were
too.
able to experience that. And I'm just at the same time feeling so, because we're talking to teachers who are still teaching, and I know how hard. I can only imagine how hard it is to do that in today's environment
Mm-hmm.
from so many levels. Right
Mm-hmm.
here in the town we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about, but out in the rest of our nation, it is so difficult with all the attacks on public school education
Mm-hmm.
and limited resources and all the
Mm-hmm.
expectations for this and that, and
Mm-hmm.
not being able to say this or not these words, or it is,
I'm looking at the weight of the curriculum itself, the weight of the curriculum.
yeah, it's a disgusting um, burden for teachers to have the same expectation for themselves or for, yeah, I feel for them deeply, and so sending you our best
Yes,
hope
our
and
empathy, energy. I send them energy, the physical stamina.
yeah, all is not lost. What you are able to do and glean and keep
Yeah.
developing in your craft is excellent. So keep at it
Yeah.
and take care of yourselves too. So one of the other things that I learned, retrospect, spending, and again, you get glimpses of it along the way, but is like who I am, really kind of embracing who you are. Like I know I like to play and have fun. My sense of humor is super important, and being able to embrace that, use that in the classroom, I love that because not every profession you go into would that be welcome in the room, but I like to feel
So true.
accomplished. I like to keep learning in all areas and in what I must, but also in what I choose. Education does that. Um, I learned how to choose me, and I like that. That's
True.
important. I think that's part of growing up, but it's also in this classroom where you are learning all these things. It allows that. Um, I learned I how I taught with humor and that creativity, but also I love the structure and discipline that I always carried. Very important, and I think that you were you were talking about how you developed your classroom. We have a lot of similarity, but very different. I like that structure and discipline, and how that a lot. That was something that came from my upbringing and how I learned. But I felt that it created fairness or equity in the classroom. And I think when kids see that and can
Yes,
follow
that's
those,
huge.
non-subjective measures to do that, that helped kids. So it's so important for teachers to teach from who they are, because the kids are going to get the best of that over the
Yes.
course of years, and that's what's important. I also learned that what I couldn't do, um, and what I maybe if I couldn't do it well, I could count on other teachers. Um, uh, Knowing that what I couldn't do also could be freeing too. If I can't do it, I don't have to take
100%.
ownership for it, right?
Yeah.
Um, I
It's
learned,
acceptance and then figure out how to work around it.
yeah, or with it, through it, and to model that for the kids too,
Mm.
because you can't know it all, you can't do it all, and then the other thing.
Ooh, ooh.
Go ahead.
The first lesson I think I learned coming from secondary and then maturing and ending with primary. It was, I remember feeling insecure teaching Spanish to high school kids who had like a grammar question. And I was still too fresh, fresh out of college, fresh out of learning grammar. And they're like, why is this? And I was trying to cover and I could feel my face turn red. I didn't really know. But I didn't want them to know I didn't know. And I just needed time to get out of the class, get to that grammar book, and then really research and study. And, and actually, secondary kids are not my favorite. And it is because they sniff out weakness and they want to pull it out of you. That's what I saw. They're like sharks waiting for the attack. Not all of them. Some of them are just the sweetest. But what I learned from that is, as I'm older, what I wish I could have done then is say, oh my gosh, I don't know, but I will get back to you instead of trying to cover it up. And I think that is a fundamental lesson that people want guidance and leadership and all of it, but they want honesty. And I think they respect you more when you can be vulnerable enough to say, I don't know, instead of covering it up and they all smelled it out. They smelled the blood in the water. So I think that that would be the greatest gift I would tell to young teachers starting off. Just, you can't do it for everything and you can't do it all day long if you're still, learning how to walk in a classroom, but do when you can own what you don't know. Own
Yeah,
it.
and model for kids that you don't know everything. I mean,
Oh,
we don't.
right.
And the more you own it, the more, what you're establishing is, that's an excellent question. That's another thing, for them to feel, wow, I found something. This is cool. And then, to model, I don't have the answer for that. That's an interesting question. Let's us do that, or why don't you do that, or I'll get on that, or whichever approach is appropriate at that moment. But to model for them the learning that isn't, this is exciting. Oh my gosh, we figured something out that we didn't know. Let's figure out how, to model what it means to still be learning, because we're still doing it. We're still doing it at our age now. And if you're not, again, I believe you're not living then. You're just
Yeah,
existing.
correct.
One of the things that it kind of goes back to what you were talking about the mechanisms of the system, and you don't know everything, and the system kind of expects you to know everything. But one of the things that I also learned was to stand up for myself. So in the classroom, like you're
Ooh.
talking about with students, or with your administration, or with the whole system of education, to stand up for yourself. It's hard to do when you're younger, when you don't have all the answers, but to know that you can do that in your workplace, and then you bring it home to your personal life, to stand up for yourself, define some boundaries. I wish I had learned that a lot earlier. That's for sure. I didn't want to disappoint people, I guess. And I was always very service oriented. I still am. I want to help people, and you do that to your own detriment sometimes. So defining your own boundaries, stand up for yourself. I remember times when I was told, how it depends. See, I said asked because I have this open idea or attitude towards it. But I was told, basically, you are doing the combination class again this
Oh,
year. We have another teacher coming in. We're going to move you to a different grade level to help this teacher learn this
oh.
curriculum again. And, so I was always bowing out and um, helping that happen, and embracing the what would be best for the school, what would be best for and never stopping, slowing down to do the best for myself, and that reflected itself in my personal life too. You got to just
So
there are
true.
times when we've got to, because of my personality, I was more accepting in that way. And there comes a time when you feel like, hold it, hang on, when's my turn? That's the red flag to you to say, hey, hold it, wait, this is I need my turn. So to actually do what your heart is telling you. When you've given and given, at some point when you realize this is not the time to give, this is the time for me to stand, then you got to do it. And do it a little sooner in your maturity and your growth than later. Go ahead and do it or try. The most they can say is no.
I think you're right. And I realized so many deep shifts in standing up for myself happened through teaching
Yeah.
because I was never a great advocate. But I look at myself the last few years of teaching, and you're right. But I think this is where it goes hand in hand with you have to know thyself
Mm-hmm.
in order to be able then to stand up for yourself. You have to really understand what your values are, your non negotiables, what drains you, what fills you. And I'm realizing that is why I could do it later in life because I finally got an awareness of what works, what doesn't work.
The thing
And
is, when you have different, when you've got characteristics that are opposites, so you're very caring and you want to advocate and stand up for everyone else in society in the
right,
world,
right,
and you forget to do that for yourself
right.
because you're giving, then that's hard.
And we're in
They don't
professions of
match.
giving.
Yeah, it doesn't match, and you're living in a patriarchal society, and yeah, that's you're molded to that. And there's a time when I would say in my situation is it was like this is one too many. This is one too many. And maybe it's over the course of time, but you find your strength that you apply to everyone else in your life and stand up for them in your life to finally embrace it for yourself, because you've been so, yeah. So I would
Yeah.
say when you feel that little tinge, this is the time to stand your ground. Yeah. To wrap it up, I think that teaching has provided an opportunity to do so much to serve the students in the community of school, but also for myself. I don't know
Yeah.
that other professions would allow for or be conducive to that, to so much opportunity to grow and apply it to your own life. So I just my thought. Although I would never recommend anyone go into teaching, but whatever. And also, I'd like to again give my best energies to young people who are teach. Even though I told my daughter don't ever become a teacher because I think she'd be a really good teacher. But
I think
um,
so too.
and I
Yeah.
think that it can give so much to us. Uh, and it's a job that needs to be done, and we need to receive better pay and better treatment and all those things, and it needs to be public school education. Um, I would just encourage you, if you have chosen this profession, which is a calling, to have grace, be empowered to be yourself, stand stand with yourself and your peers, and thank you for your service.
I'm right there with you. Thank you for doing it's yes, it's protecting our country in a different way. It is. I think one of the most wonderful things that teaching taught me was, or gave me, I should say, between working in public schools through most of the ages and then having my private teaching business where I worked with mostly adults. What I love about that is I have worked with so many diverse backgrounds and with almost every imaginable personality type. And that's what I wanted to say, I think is different with teaching than maybe an office job. I think we through the years we teach, especially when I had taught high school, when you have 150 students per year, you end up teaching hundreds of people. And so you've had to learn how to adapt and listen and work with hundreds of personalities. And I think that's a gift that only teaching could really
Yeah.
give you.
And you have to it's deeply. It's not like it's a one-shot deal with anything. You're doing this over the course of many, many hours over the course of a year, and you're dealing with their families, their parents and
Oh,
families
yeah,
as well.
right.
So it's a lot of understanding human beings.
Yes,
All right.
that was what I wanted to conclude with.
Teach on.
Teach on.
Thanks for listening. Now let's pack up this week's episode in the trunk.
Ride shotgun and be a part of our adventure by clicking on the plus sign to subscribe and follow our show. This will help our ratings and, more importantly, inspire us to keep creating fun and engaging content. We would love to hear from you in the comments section or email us at retiredpodcastnewtread@gmail.com. Use the fast track lane by sharing episodes with friends, family, and anyone who would like to join us on our road trip through retirement.
Be sure to check the show notes for links and contact information. Retired is chauffeured by Sue Britz and Tina Lokkbakk. It is produced, directed, and edited by me, Sue Britz. Music and graphics are by me too. Buckle up and tune in next week so that you won't miss your chance to join our retired road trip.